The thumbnail is clickbait, okay? It is a meme of the one with Cyrene, please do not shoot me. We are currently in the pre-beta stages of leaks, where data miners are drip feeding us with a lot of the details about a character, until we eventually get the full kit in about less than a week now. There are a lot of reliable sources saying things about Columbina from the people who've been leaking most of the stuff in Nodecrack correctly so far, before the beta. So in this video I want to go over the Columbina information, which, like with all pre-beta information, is going to be incomplete for now, and actually even with the incomplete information and very generous assumptions in my opinion, Columbina's looking to be strong, which I'll show speculative calculations for. So with all the Orcon-like characters prior, there's probably going to be a lot of doom posting around her. I am just having fun with this thumbnail. When we get her actual full leaks, I will make proper analysis videos on them and evaluate them fairly, so make sure to subscribe for that, because I'll be ready to cover Columbina in depth whenever her leaks get dropped. And if at any point during the video you're entertained or informed, make sure to drop a like too, as it helps out a ton. Shout out to all my channel members, I love all of you. Thank you for being a consistent means to keep me here. And also, so very soon Durin and Venti will be on banner. So if you'd like to cut down on the costs while going for them, then I would like to announce the sponsor for today's video, LD Shop. LD Shop is a very safe and reliable top-up site that allows you to get Primo Gems at a great deal starting from 15% off, while keeping your data safe. As for transactions, you only need to type in your UID and region, as you can see me doing here. Just needed to quickly refresh my welkin, and as you can see, it's here. And make sure to use my link, as that way you'll receive an extra 15% off coupon, as well as a 5% off coupon which can save you up to $50. LD Shop goes through official channels as well, meaning that you won't lose any of the in-game benefits like first time top-up bonuses, so no need to worry. And additionally, because LD Shop is so great, users who spend over $80 will receive a VIP membership which rewards you with free welcome moons. So head over to ldshop.gg using my link in the description below. What are you waiting for? Thanks to LD Shop for sponsoring this video, now back to it. Okay, so for basic details, to no one's surprise, Columbina is going to be a Hydra Catalyst character. I really can't imagine her wielding anything else, and she's been manipulating Hydra ever since Nodecrack's introduction. In regards to what she scales off of, like Furina, her motion value should primarily be HP scaling, but considering she's a support for lunar reaction teams, I really wouldn't be surprised if she had additional EM scaling to make it less of a wasted stat when having EM buffs on the team. Well, I should also say this now, but Columbina doesn't enable lunar reactions, so you'll need the actual characters like Flynn's or Llama etc. to enable it for her. Once again, this is pre-beta, so this could be wrong, but even assuming this is true, I think it honestly makes sense. Lunar reactions are literally irrelevant outside of the designated characters anyways. Lunar Bloom as a reaction does nothing unless you can consume Verdant Dew, and Lunar Charge primarily exists to generate thunderclouds for Flynn's and Anefa to do more damage. By itself, LC doesn't really do anything special, so Columbina not enabling lunar reactions really doesn't change things much. The only thing that sucks is that any lunar shield mechanics can't be passed by her alone, not that she can't enable the reaction herself. And in regards to Columbina's role, a lot of people did expect her to be a support and just boost the hell out of lunar reactions, but apparently what a lot of leakers have been highlighting is that a lot of her power does actually goes towards being a sub DPS with minor buffing. There was a leak going around saying that Columbina does more damage than Furina as the baseline, which to be honest just doesn't say a lot. If Furina was the direct comparison, does this mean that characters like Anefa or Malvuika with stronger sub DPS than her are just too high of a bar for Columbina to clear? But not only that, Furina's damage can range from like 200k damage per rotation in solo Hydro to upwards of 500k, 600k in certain double Hydra setups. So as of right now, we kind of don't really have an actual baseline to where Columbina's damage is going to sit at. For the buffing side of things, however, at C0 we do know that Columbina will give a base multiplier to all lunar reactions, like how all the 5-star Nodecrack characters do, and it should be a 7% base multiplier increase, which would make sense. And also Columbina will give a 40% lunar reaction damage bonus from her elemental burst. In terms of stat increases, that is apparently the full extent of her amplification, which means that Columbina's buffing profile would be very similar to Aino's at C6, and it would also mean that C0 Columbina wouldn't directly increase the damage of anyone who doesn't deal lunar reactions. For some reason, people didn't get the memo with like the last 3 Archons, that the Archon-like figure of a version will lift up the characters in their region the most. But yes, most of Columbina's value will come from using her with the Nodecrack units, and I don't really think anyone should be surprised by this, really. This even gets doubled down with the next part of her kit, where like with Cyrene from HSR, if you know what happened over there, depending on what characters you have in your team, Columbina will give different buffs accordingly. For lunar charged characters like Flynn's or Anefa, Columbina will make it so that LC damage will now tick every 1.5 seconds instead of every every 2 seconds, which is like 2 to 3 extra lunar charge procs per rotation, which is just good, nothing much to really say. It's an extra 100k to 150k damage per rotation. For Lunar Bloom characters like Nefra and Llama, you will now be able to hold an additional 3 Verdant Dew, and what is amazing about this is that the second bar of Verdant Dew you will get supposedly generates at the same time as your original bar, meaning that you will now just have double the Dew generation. This is insane quality of life, especially in Nefra's teams, as it means that you just won't run into an issue of being strapped for Dew, and it means that Llama will also be able to hold E on Nefra teams, so she can actually do some decent personal damage of her own. Llama can also not completely kill Nefra's Verdant Dew supply like she can now, due to the fact that Llama's skill can only consume 3 Dews at a time, so if you are on full Dews and do a Llama hold skill, you will still have 3 more Dews left. And on top of this, Columbina also gives interruption resistance on Lunar Bloom teams in some way, which is helpful for both Nefra and Llama when they're on field. And also Columbina can also use Verdant Dew herself to enhance her charge attacks. Leakers have said that her multipliers are not as good as Nefra's, but in a case where you have Llama and not Nefer, running Columbina and Llama as split on-fielders may be the play, I guess. As in, kind of in a way opposites to Nefer. When you're using Llama as a driver, she will do her hold skill and then just have 3 Dews for a long time and not be able to do anything with them. So going to Columbina to do a few charge attacks then swap back into Llama to hold E is probably how you play them together. We will see. Oh yeah, Columbina will be releasing alongside a Geo Leeway character who enables Lunar Crystallize. We have no information on what her buffs to Lunar Crystallize will be, but we do have the basics of information for Lunar Crystallize. It can only be triggered from a Hydra Shard, and it does AoE geo damage. That's basically all we know so far. And that also about covers it for all the details we've received about Columbina. So I guess I can start talking about how good she can potentially be in the meta. Keep in mind, this is going to be purely speculative just off of all the crumbs we've received, and not an actual meta analysis. If that is what you want, again, please just wait for her actual beta. It's happening in like 5 days, and I'll be able to go more in depth then. But for now, the first 2 obvious things to look at would be Columbina's prospects for Flynn's and Nefer. Starting with Flynn's, adding the buff she provides and the higher lunar charge tick rate, and assuming Columbina has a pretty moderate amount of damage, which may even be a bit too conservative, considering how powerful recent sub DPS have been, including the rotation time extension that would occur from having another 5-star burst in the team. Even with that, and again very conservative damage assumptions, this would shoot Flynn's, who is currently bordering the 110k DPS mark, to well over 120k DPS, and with a C6 Yahada possibly over 130k DPS, but I was too lazy to calculate her. This would very comfortably make Flynn's the best Electra DPS. One thing that sucks about Aino at C6 is that her buff only applies to the on-field character, despite not even really being that strong of a buff. So assuming Columbina is a team-wide buffer, which I don't see why she wouldn't be, one of the reasons that helps this jump is that everyone can have a higher LC contribution, and Nefa just does more damage. For Nefer, I looked at 2 teams, one being with Kuki and one being with Prototype Amber Nahida, and because of the increased Dew count and generation speed, I also am just assuming that you'll be able to use Llama's hold skill with 2 Verdant Dew, and it won't hamper Nefer's ability to perform 6 charge attacks, which it really shouldn't. Nefer of course receives a buff in both cases over using Aino, but the problem is that Nefer does a lot of personal damage, so someone like Columbina, who doesn't have that much of a better buffing profile than Aino, is actually kind of hindering her. Like, yes, it is a good thing that you can do CAs more comfortably and hold skill on Llama, and have another sub DPS in the team, but Nefer would have preferred an actual stronger buffer. And Columbina's buffs being team-wide also matters less here than it does for Flynn's, due to the fact that Llama does less damage than Nefa, and Lunar Bloom doesn't do damage, so there's less of a damage pool to buff. So if Columbina's kit is like how leakers have said it is, then she would technically synergize more with Flynn's type of team than Nefer's. Regardless, being able to hold 6 Dews and double the generation is just way too big of an upside to pass, that even if it doesn't translate that well to sheets, will be something you feel exponentially in practice. So even if this would be the end of Columbina's kit, I would still say it would be worth it for Nefer mains. I'm also going to go out on a limb and assume that Columbina is good for the lunar crystallized DPS we're getting, but once again there isn't really any info on her. Outside of the Nordcry damage dealers, Nefa is one of the most powerful and flexible sub DPSs in the game, and especially with the extra buffs from Columbina that she would actually be able to receive, I expect the Columbina and Nefa wheelchair core to maybe even be one of the strongest duos in the game. I know Nefa is already the best option for a lot of the cast, and if Columbina is just better than Aino with personal damage, and actually being able to buff a Nefa from off-field, then it's kind of scary to think about how good this core would be. Overvape would probably overtake Overload again as the best way to play pyro units, unless you're a melt carry. Lunar Charge would also be more competitive with Overload 2 for electro carries. Nivelette does a lot of lunar charge damage since he builds so much crit, and if Columbina actually does more damage than Furina, since Nefa is basically on all of Nivelette's best teams in LC or Hyperbloom, she would just replace Furina there and Nivelette mains would gain their next 2 2k DPS side grade instead of just pulling first constellation. Dendro stuff in general has been overtaken by Llama, so once again Columbina is most likely going to be the best Hydro in all Dendro cores when paired with her. But if you are someone who has skipped like literally every Nordcry character, I'm not really sure what you can do, but I don't necessarily think that's a negative. Columbina herself supposedly doesn't enable any of the lunar reactions, and from the 4 stars there's nothing you can really do besides raising her moon sign level, which you don't even know will do anything for Columbina. At most, I think you can make Columbina an Escoffier / Skirk slot if her sub DPS is good without lunar reactions, but would it even be better than someone like Yulan? It is very much shaping up to be that Columbina is just crack with lunar reactions, and met if not, and I am fine with that just because of how much she buffs the Nordcry cast, as well as the quality of life benefit she provides to them. Based on what we have, Columbina is actually a very flexible character, because once again she can use Llama and Nenefa, and those two supports alone cover almost every single basis in this game. Her flexibility just comes with the restriction that you need Llama and Nenefa, so if you have any Nordcry character, I think it's pretty evident that Bina is a must pull for you, and if you don't, then she really doesn't seem to be doing a lot. I've seen a leak that says we're getting another Ratsniki, who I'm guessing would be Electro, and we're also getting the free Lantern Rat unit who, if I were to place bets on, would be a lunar character of some kind, both of which are 4 stars. So Hoyoverse has probably realized the trap they locked Columbina in, and will be releasing more accessible options in the form of 4 stars. This is something that happened with Malvuika too, where a lot of people said she was Jalonin reliant, but then Hoyoverse released Sitlali alongside her, another DPS that Malvuika can be run with in Varesa, and then we also got Eontan as a support for Malvuika, who works fine as a replacement to Shilonin. So as Nordcry progresses, I do expect there to be less restrictions on Columbina, where she can shine as a strong sub DPS. Overall, I am really excited for her, especially if the unique reaction buffs are true. Please let the Lunar Bloom one be real. Even with the bare bone structures of Columbina's kit, she's already shaping up to be one of the strongest units in the game, aiding some of the strongest DPS, and being placed on the strongest support cores, so she will for sure be a meta staple. But I can just tell that until she gets some of her restrictions released, we're probably going to have the same discourse we had with Furina and Malvuika, where people said that Malvuika is only good with Natlin units, therefore she's bad, ignoring the fact that the Natlin units, and supports especially, were just the best in the game regardless, so you'd be using them anyways. So I do have high hopes for Columbina. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on Columbina's pre-beta kit, as I would love to hear it and I respond to almost every single comment. Channel members, I love you, hugs and kisses to you all. Thank you for the continued support. Thank you to everyone else for watching, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.